We are continuing to inch our way closer to fall. However, I'm trying my very best to hold on to summer as long as I can, not because I really love summer or enjoy it all that much. I'm just trying to be realistic about the fact that we are still having very warm temperatures around or above 90 degrees every day. The mornings have been feeling cooler, so we will celebrate that, and it has me excited about what's to come, of course. So I am slowly allowing myself to incorporate some fall things into our home, but trying my best not to get carried away just yet. So while I will probably be waiting at least one more week to put out my fall decorations, I wanted to go ahead and start to cozy up our home a little bit. I had some projects in mind that I knew would be a bit more time consuming, so I wanted to go ahead and knock those out in preparation for the seasonal decorations, which are to come very, very soon. And in saying that, today's video will be a little bit different than my norm. Whereas usually it would be tracking over a single day, this is more so by project and not so much in chronological order. So I'm excited to dive in. Glad you're here. One of the areas that I always enjoy giving a little extra time and attention to is our master bedroom. I just thought it would be a really fun way to slowly fade from summer into fall by doing a bedding refresh. And I honestly spent probably way too much time studying bedding sets and pattern mixtures and texture combinations and all kinds of things last year whenever it started to get colder outside, because I thought, man, there are so many beautiful bedrooms, and I just wanted to understand better how they did it. And I'm still constantly playing with different things and figuring that out. It's hard for me to visualize as I am going through a store, kind of being able to see all of the different designs and patterns and textures going together in the end result. I have a hard time visualizing that, but I just kind of pick things up here and there as I go. So I found this fitted sheet, as well as it came with 4 pillowcases actually. I didn't think I would end up using any of them yet, but you'll see later on that I did switch to using 2 of them. Sorry, my children keep hitting the tripod as I'm trying to do this. They are in and out, running around, having a great time, so can't be upset about that. But I really like how this came together. I'm excited for you to see it, but I wanted to find some things. I wanted to pull some things out of our bedding trunk that have not needed to be used since last winter when it was cold outside. We've started getting a little chilly at nighttime, so it was a good time to transition our thin comforter over to a bit thicker of a coverlet quilt that we have that I actually got last year for Christmas, when I guess you could say that I started my bedding refresh almost a year ago. And then I found these plaid pillows at TJ Maxx, and I just love plaid. I'm all about the Ralph Lauren style, almost kind of like a Nantucket cottage inspired feel. That is just very much me. And then mixing and matching textures, I was trying to just use what we had. We have this gray plush queen size blanket that goes at the foot of our bed and a green cable knit throw. Then I found this plaid throw at Belk, I believe, and the colors just matched everything. I thought, well, that's a really good way to tie in the lighter blue from our curtains and our rug and all that. I wanted to drape it over our headboard to soften that up a bit. We actually used the bedroom suit that my husband has had since he was in high school. It still is in perfectly good shape. We do not have a reason to replace it. But our bedroom has a lot of really hard textures in it. So for example, 2 of the walls are brick and our floors are hardwoods. Our trim around the windows is a wood craftsman style, and our bedding and bedroom furniture is obviously all wood. So it's just very visually, there's a lot of hard textures in our room, and it can make it feel a bit less cozy if not complemented by an array of like soft textures as well, or at least that's what I think. So I wanted to soften up our headboard a bit without changing out our headboard. I saw a couple of different ideas on Pinterest that I kind of thought about trying, and then I ended up just settling on making like a headboard cushion that was a little bit tufted and could just almost like a linen look. Like I just wanted it to be very casual. I tossed around the idea of using something patterned, but I settled on just going with white, helping it to match any type of bedding that I change out throughout the seasons, throughout the year, and then it doesn't completely like add one more thing visually to our room. It just kind of keeps it more simple. I ended up adding some ties to it as well in each of the corners so that it can just tie over our headboard rails and then be taken off if I choose to do something different, or if it needs to be washed or anything like that. But this was just a really simple sewing project. I had plenty of white fabric at our house. I keep every sheet set that we get, I keep the flat sheet and use it for sewing projects. So this was actually two different white materials, but they were so similar that you couldn't really tell. One is like a microfiber and then the other is more of a linen or cotton. So I keep the cotton linen side facing outward so that that's what you see. It's not got a shine to it or anything, which is what I wanted. I just had these fabrics at home already, so this is what I used, and then I just sewed it like I would a pillow. You know, I sewed like 3.5 sides and left a hole big enough to stuff cotton and all kinds of things down in there for the filling, and then hand sewed it the rest of the way, and then just went in and did, I think I only did 8 or 10 of the hand tufted dots, and it was not difficult at all. It did not require a ton of effort, and it's not perfect, but you know, it does what I wanted it to do, and it softens up the room a little bit. I also looked around for a while to try and find some kind of cozy navy lumbar throw pillow, and could not find any that I liked or that I felt went with the rest of what I had going on. So I just used the flat sheet from that sheet set and made my own. Another project I've been wanting to tackle for quite some time is sewing some living room curtains, and I am not a seamstress. I simply sew as a hobby, so these are not anything fancy, but I found this fabric online at Joann, and I just thought it looked so cozy, like an English Oxford cottage or something. I've never actually been to one of those, but if I could imagine what kind of curtains they would have, it would be something like this. But anyways, we have this really interesting set of triple windows in our living room, which if you've been around, you've probably seen in my filming before. And I've not had curtains up in quite some time, because whenever we moved into our house, we could not quite figure out what size curtain rod to use, or if we should use multiple rods, because there is about a foot of sheetrock, like a wall space in between each of the windows, which I am all the time studying windows as I'm driving and stuff, because it baffles me as to what to do on the exterior of our home too. Like, it's not enough space to add shutters, but it feels like we need something. So I'm all the time looking at other people's houses, and I have never seen another house that did it like this. Like most of the time, if there's a triple window, they're all right up against each other. But anyways, we ended up making our long curtain rod originally out of two dowel rods put together, and then that ended up breaking. So recently we bought like a legitimate long curtain rod that can be extended or shrunk down, like you add and remove the different pieces, and I really like it. So in the past I had curtains hanging in between each window as well as on either end, but now I just have them on either end, and I am really loving the feel that it gives. I will say it makes me think that our couch no longer fits or like matches the whole feel of the room, so I need to reupholster my couch or find a different one or a slip cover. I'm looking into it, so stay tuned for the modern grandma couch makeover, whatever that ends up looking like. I often struggle to find the balance between the creative side of homemaking and the productive, necessary side of homemaking. I think that there's so much purpose and joy and just overall importance on both sides, but I definitely enjoy the creative side more. Something I heard several years back in a podcast really encouraged me, and so I wanted to share that with you, but please know that this was not my own revelation. This is something that I heard from the Homemakers Club podcast a few years back. This was in reference to being a full-time stay-at-home mom or homemaker in general, and often feeling like you did so much throughout the day and you were so busy, but then when your husband or whoever comes home and they're like, "Hey, how was your day? What'd you do all day?" You're like, I really don't know what I did. Like, I look around, my house is a wreck. I still don't have dinner cooked or meat thawing in the sink. Like, I don't know what I did today, but I know that I stayed busy with stuff. And so their recommendation for this, in order to feel some sense of accomplishment, is to, one, come up with 2 or 3 things that you personally feel like you need to do every single day in order to feel like you somewhat have it together. And then go to your husband and ask him for like the 2 or 3 things that he would like for you to have done by the time he gets home each day, in order for him to feel like he's not coming into absolute chaos when he gets home. So for us, he just wanted me to maybe have like a load of laundry going for the day, and then also have an idea of what we would be having for dinner. Like if meat needed to be thawed, go ahead and have it thawing out. If anything needed to be bought, make sure that we have the ingredients. That was a big relief for me. He's like, "I know that you have your hands full. Like there's a lot happening here. That's really the only things that would be nice." And then for myself, it would be making the bed, laundry as well, and if I could get the dishes out of the sink, that would be fantastic. And lastly, I thought that I would give sourdough a try one more time. I've tried this in the past and not had a ton of success because I have a hard time coming up with like a baking routine and schedule. I don't have an issue with feeding it every day. It's just once I get it fed, like what to do with it and the time that it takes to prepare for each individual recipe is a little tricky for me to figure out, so I usually just end up letting it fall to the wayside. But I got this kit this time, which I think will be super helpful to take some of the thought process out of it. It just makes life a bit easier. So some of the things that I really like about it is this jar is wide mouthed. It's like 3.5 inches wide, makes it super easy to pour things in, take out, discard, and then just slip on this little sleeve over the top. It also came with a lid, but I felt like the sleeve was just easier and allowed a little bit of airflow, but kept it sealed at the same time. And then it came with this super cool thermometer sticker to help monitor the temperature. And then as you can see along the side of like the temperature sticker, there's this line on the jar, which makes it really easy to tell when you last fed it. The strap that goes down around it, you can turn around and place like the day and time in which you last fed. And then that band helps to measure the starter levels, and it's just so much easier for me to do it that way than with like a rubber band, which I've done in the past. And then it also came with some collapsible proofing baskets. One is a 9-inch round basket and one is a 10-inch oval. They're both BPA free, food grade silicone that can withstand temperatures up to 446 degrees Fahrenheit, and they really, like, they're not easy to mold like a lot of the baskets that you can get that are more wicker or wooden. They're just a whole lot safer. And what I really love about them is that they're foldable. So we don't have a ton of storage space in our kitchen. I'm constantly trying to figure out where to put things. And while I want to grow these skills, a lot of these skills require extra supplies, and I just don't have a ton of storage. So I love that these collapse. I love that they can go in the dishwasher. I love that they are silicone, so they're super easy to clean. I usually put a thin little dusting of flour around it just to make sure that nothing sticks, but I've not had any problems with it. At first, I did start to measure, like with my kitchen scale, the portions of like wheat flour and white flour and water every single day. But then I realized, hey, you know what? I've baked bread for a while now, not sourdough, but I know what a dough consistency should look like. So I'm just kind of going to wing it. And again, I'm just trying to lessen the amount of thought that I have to put into this to make it seem more natural, more like second nature to me, so that it's not something I get tired of or burn out on and give up easily. So I had a little bit of a struggle because I started doing that, but I think that I finally got it to a consistency that I liked. It was a bit thicker maybe than what it should have been whenever it came time to bake, but I was fighting a lot of watery starter for the majority of my first week feeding this. So I think that I would have rather it been that way anyways. I would rather it be a little tougher than the opposite, a little too runny. So, you know, the first loaf is always not the best, but I really am excited to have this going again. And my goal here, I am not a sourdough expert, clearly. There are so many people in YouTube world and social media world that are so much more well versed in this area than myself. But my goal here is to learn from them, I guess, and once a week try to bake something sourdough. So I am excited to see how we grow with this, especially going into the fall when everything like apple and cinnamon is what we're wanting to eat. And then we get into the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and there's all kinds of opportunities to make things. I'm just glad that I got it started now so that hopefully I can get several practice rounds in before time to take it and share with our family and friends. I will have the loaf recipe that I used linked down below in the description box. Like I said, I struggle with the scheduling for sourdough recipes. Like, it requires such a rise time. It requires a lot. And so I really struggled, like, because I work as a half-day preschool teacher and we are not home all morning. Like, I can't really tend to it every couple of hours or do stretch and folds all morning long like many recipes suggest. So I found a recipe that was very conducive to our schedule. I don't know if maybe that combined with my starter consistency was part of the reason why it didn't rise quite like I wanted it to. But either way, it was the only one that I found that would work. So I'll have it linked down below in case anyone else is in that situation. And also, if any of you have sourdough recipes that you just absolutely love, like that you always use as your staple go-to when you need to take a dessert or when you need to provide a meal for a friend, or you know, something that your family just totally devours every time that you make it, I would love for you to share it with me down in the comments below. I am trying to build up my stash of sourdough recipes so that I have those handy and can, you know, utilize this and not just leave it sitting in my fridge for months and months and then end up throwing it away. P.S. An extra little side note that I did not plan on throwing in here, but I'm going to. Using a throw blanket as your tablecloth is actually quite effective. I saw this one day and thought, I don't know if I would actually want to do that, but I have a couple of throws that don't get used a whole lot, but would make great textured tablecloths and just add a cozy element. So maybe I will try that out sometime. And so I figured, what better day than when we are breaking into our first loaf of sourdough bread, and I just love it so much. My grandmother came over and was like, I love your tablecloth. She didn't even realize that it was a throw blanket. So if you are looking for a good option, try that out. Anyways, I'm so glad that you guys came along. Thank you for joining me for these very final late summer days and very early fall days. It is fun to be in the overlap, and I look forward to all of what's to come. I hope you'll join me next week as we decorate for fall, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you're at. I'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.